Hello, listeners, and welcome to our podcast. Today we'll be conversing about the Mauryan and Gupta empires during our time. My name is Noah Diaz, and I shall let my fellow podcasters introduce themselves.
Hello, I am Jack Studdard. I'm excited to be here today.
Welcome, Mr. Studdard.
Thank you, Noah.
Hello, everyone. I'm James Bryan. Thanks for having me.
Hello, Mr. Bryan.
Hello, listeners. I am Angus Ho. I'm excited to talk about the Mauryan and Gupta empires.
We're very excited to have you, Mr. Ho, and thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Noah.
So, our topic for today, as most of you know already, is the Mauryan and Gupta empires. First, we will be discussing the Mauryan Empire, as it is the much older of the two. The Mauryan Empire dated from 324 BCE until 184 BCE, when it collapsed. Next, we'll be talking about the Gupta Empire. The Gupta Empire dated from 320 CE until 550 CE. The Mauryan and Gupta empires were considered classical empires because they had patriarchal family structures, agricultural-based economies, complex governments, and an expanding trade base. There were many other classical empires during this time, such as the Hellenistic Greeks led by Alexander the Great, and the Roman Empire. James, start us off.
So the Mauryan Empire lasted from 324 to 184 BCE. The Magadha Kingdom expanded to cover a large part of India, and by 324 BCE united and became the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan Empire began after Alexander the Great's conquest of India in 326 BCE. Chandragupta Maurya rose to power and reigned until 298 BCE, succeeded by his son Bindusara, who extended the empire into central India.
Then Asoka reigned until 232 BCE. After realizing his violence converted Maurya to Buddhism. He then reigned in peace and spread Buddhism throughout India. The empire declined after Asoka's rule until it shrank to solely core areas due to weak leaders and financial problems. Finally, in 184 BCE, the Mauryan Empire collapsed due to internal problems.
Important people and events during the Mauryan Empire included Pataliputra, which was the capital of the Mauryan Empire, located in northern India. Chandragupta Maurya created the empire and ruled until 301 BCE. Ashoka, who ruled from 273 to 232 BCE, converted the empire to Buddhism and led a peaceful reign. Mahabharata was the vast epic written during the Mauryan rule, which included Bhagavad Gita, and the Bhagavad Gita was the most important work in Indian literature. It was a dialogue between the warrior Arjuna and the god Krishna.
Arjuna and the god Krishna are both related to the Hindu faith, which was predominant in India prior to Asoka's reign. The Mauryan Empire was founded by Chandragupta Maurya and was India's first centralized empire. Administrative districts were governed by close relatives and the associates of the king. The government was based out of the capital at Pataliputra in northern India, and was responsible for all of the happenings in the empire.
During the Mauryan Empire, a system of roads grew and commerce began to flourish with crafts such as metalwork, jewelry, perfume, and sculpture. The empire issued standard coins throughout the land, which was used as the normal currency by the people. As much as 1/4 of the harvest value was taxed by the government, with other revenue sources found in trade, government monopolies on mining, liquor, weapons, and fees for use of the irrigation network.
Two great Indian epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, were finalized during the Mauryan time period. More importantly, the most important work of Indian literature, the Bhagavad Gita, was written. The Bhagavad Gita is an Indian sacred text that tells of a dialogue between a warrior and the god Krishna.
The Mauryan and the Gupta Empire both stated Buddhism as a primary religion. This popular religion would soon move to Eastern Asian cultures such as China and Japan. The importance of Buddhism, starting where it did, was that the Silk Road ran through India and helped with the spread of Buddhism to other parts of the world.
In both empires, men were mostly dominant over women. However, women had their own rights to lead the man. The male members typically dominated the family and could own land in both empires where the men were dominant. The importance to both empires was the Brahmins, who followed trade and constituted a lot of their economy.
The Brahmins were the top of the caste system. The caste system was a social structure that was based in the Hindu faith and lasted in India until the early 20th century. The technological advancements in the Mauryan and Gupta empires were significant, especially in the Gupta Empire. The discovery of zero and infinity during the Gupta Empire was of great importance to the math and sciences. The advancements in science led to the discovery of the 7 planets, which led to many more discoveries. The Mauryan Empire was the beginning of the development of sciences in India and is known as a cultural golden age.
Since both the Gupta and Mauryan empires were located near the coast, their trade advantage was better. The empires were also close to the Himalayas, which helped them keep foreign invaders out. The only thing that would affect them heavily was the weather, in the form of summer monsoons that would arrive annually.
Transitioning over to the Gupta Empire, it lasted from 320 to 550 CE. The Gupta Empire rose in northern India in the Ganges Plains and united under Chandragupta, who ruled from 320 to 335 CE. Chandragupta modeled the Gupta Empire after the Mauryan Empire, which was very successful in its time. In 370 CE, gold coins were introduced as currency by Samudragupta. By 425 CE, Guptan influence reached all of the Indian subcontinent. In 499 CE, Aryabhata calculated the mathematical number pi, and by 500 CE, after 50 years of being invaded from the Huns, the northern part of the Guptan Empire fell. Finally, in 550 CE, the Gupta Empire collapsed due to pressure from the Huns and financial instability.
Some important events or people for the Gupta Empire included the term theater state, which is a term used for empires that unite their people by sophisticated, cultural, and elaborate public ceremonies. Therefore, the Gupta Empire was seen as a theater state. The fact that it was a theater state helped bind the people to it and stay loyal to the state without having the need for a strong leader. Sati is a practice in the Gupta Empire where widowed women would burn themselves on their dead husband's pyre, and if they didn't comply with Sati, they would face being shunned socially. The Aryans, people of northern India, migrated and began the Gupta Empire. However, they were lighter skinned than their Dravidian neighbors in southern India. This difference caused many racial tensions and ended up making the Dravidians outcasts on the caste system.
The Gupta emerged, modeling itself after the old Mauryan Empire, with the founder even calling himself Chandragupta and again having the capital at Pataliputra. More distant regions were controlled by governors, with more independence from the king. Villages were led by a headman and a council of elders.
The Gupta adopted similar methods of revenue collection, but were never as effective as the Mauryans were. Luxury goods and trade revenues were collected at the capital and redistributed to show off their wealth to neighboring kingdoms. Nearby, lesser kingdoms made annual tributes.
The Gupta Empire is an example of a theater state because the empire obtained much of its power by demonstrating elaborate court rituals and showing off the splendor and beauty of the royal court. During the Guptan Empire, the status of women declined, and women lost the right to own and inherit property. Their lives were controlled completely by the men.
The Mauryan and Gupta empires were both heavily significant in the history of the world, especially India, and I hope all of the listeners have a better grasp of what both empires were like. Even though hundreds of years apart, they share many common things, a few being geographic location, religion, and culture. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening to our podcast. I'd also like to thank Mr. Studdard, Mr. James, and Mr. Ho for joining me in our lively discussion about the Mauryan and Gupta empires. I thoroughly enjoyed my time today, and I hope you three did as well.
Thank you all so much for listening. I had a great time today, and I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did.
I hope this podcast helped a lot of people in the world who are interested in learning more in depth about the Mauryan and Gupta empires. I had such a great time.
I enjoyed every last bit of today, and I hope the listeners did too. Good night.